We are at Israel Putnam Elementary School in Meriden, the same school where Dr. Miguel Cardona taught fourth grade. And the Secretary of Education is kind enough to join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. Good to be with you and great to be here at this school where it all started.
Yeah, so what's it like to be back here? You must have so many great memories.
Let me tell you, man, I was 21, 22 years old. The first day of school as a teacher, I'll never forget the students that I had. I'll never forget the bulletin board that said, "Let the journey begin." And here I am, ready to exit as Secretary of Education for the whole country, and I'm back in the place where it started. What a journey it's been.
Oh yeah, incredible. So tell me, in the 3+ years you've been in this role, what are you most proud of?
Look, I'm proud of what we accomplished, but I'm also proud of how we accomplished it, right? I came in when half the schools were closed across the country.
Right.
I came in when there was distrust in public education and there was so much frustration. There was a teacher shortage. College was out of reach for so many people. I'm proud of the fact that higher education is more affordable, more accessible. There's more federal grants, more accessibility to those grants. There's more accountability in higher education than there ever has been. I'm proud that we have 16,000 more school counselors, school social workers to address the mental health needs of our kids. I'm proud that for the first time in 2022 to 2023, we've seen achievement gaps close with some of those data that we've seen, because we know when we invest in schools and when we invest in students, good things happen.
Right.
There's tremendous, you're never gonna punch out. There's always work to do, but I'm proud of the work that we did and how we did it. We did it listening to people that agree with us, people that disagree with us. We did it ensuring that we kept the students at the center of the conversations, and it's been such a great ride, and it's such a humbling experience to serve as our country's secretary.
Now, President-elect Trump says he wants to dismantle the Department of Education. What are your thoughts about that?
I really honestly think that was more of a campaign strategy than it was real, because it would take 60 votes. I don't know that you're going to get that. And it would hurt rural communities more. It would hurt students with disabilities the most. It would hurt students that benefit from Title I funding, which we know in a lot of our more economically disadvantaged communities. Those students would suffer the most. Most of our rural schools, they rely most on our public schools. So I don't know that would be, it'd be a bad idea, period. But just from a standpoint of helping those students who need it the most, it would be damaging to them.
Now, Trump is selecting Linda McMahon from Connecticut to be in this role. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, look, having served as Secretary of Education, I recognize the challenge that there is to make sure that you're meeting the needs of all 65 million students. I wish her well. I'm very concerned about the policies that he's bringing forward, but I wish her well. I know she has served on Connecticut's State Board of Education for a short period of time and served on a college board, and I hope she brings that experience and the perspective of those who she served to the table as secretary if she goes through and gets confirmed by the Senate.
What do you think your department does for kids across the country?
It does a lot. First of all, it protects their civil rights. Over the last 4 years, it doesn't get a lot of attention, but we've worked to protect the rights of students in red states and in blue states whose services haven't been provided. In particular, there were cases where after the pandemic, students didn't get special education services during the period of the pandemic, and by law, they were supposed to get it. So we fought to make sure that those students got the support that they needed. We fought to make sure that students were included in schools where they might have felt excluded. So protection of students is something that we do. We ensure that the dollars that Congress intends to go to schools gets to the schools. That's the part that I'm really concerned about. Can you imagine if there's not that support and oversight to make sure that the billions of dollars that are intended to help kids like the kids in this school, these books that you see behind me, are paid in part with federal dollars. If that's not there, then what's going to happen to those students who are going to be relying on these libraries to help them learn to read? We provide protection, we provide guidance, we provide oversight, I think the majority of the laws are passed at the state level, and that's good, that's how it should be, but the federal role is to provide civil rights and oversight.
Now, we just had another mass shooting just last week in Wisconsin at another school. It's been over a decade since what we saw happen at Sandy Hook. Comment on these and what else can we do?
I was a school principal when Sandy Hook happened, and I remember the fear and the frustration that I felt then, and it's still there now. I visited Uvalde maybe 4 or 5 days after the massacre there. And one of the experiences that'll stay with me the most is walking the hallways of Parkland High School, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, with the parents of the deceased, before the school was even cleaned, to experience the frustration, the sadness. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. I'm tired of hearing from folks who vote no on more gun safety provisions, on common sense provisions of law, people that vote no talking about thoughts and prayers. Everyone who voted no on gun safety restrictions or background checks or red flag laws, those people should be going to those communities now, listening to those parents. We need to do more. That said, I'm proud of some of the work that we did over the last 4 years. Under President Biden's leadership, we passed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. For the first time ever, since I've been an educator, there was gun safety legislation that's aimed at protecting our communities and protecting our schools. There was $2 billion provided, where we had money for mental health supports, and we also had money to make safer schools. And as a school principal, former school principal, I can tell you those dollars were needed in the field. So we did some work, but we still have to do more. And I'm hoping that the next administration recognizes that, we're talking about lives of children. There's nothing more sacred, nothing more important. We have to do better as a country.
Now, you were Commissioner of Education here in Connecticut when the pandemic hit. Have kids caught up now, and what about test scores?
Yeah. No, kids have not caught up. And I think what we have to recognize is, and I'm a father before I'm secretary. Yeah. I had 2 teenagers in high school during the pandemic. The socialization, the academic, my daughter, she was wrapping up 8th grade actually, and she was taking an algebra course. So now taking algebra from her living room while they're forced to disrupt is not the same as taking it and meeting with the teacher and getting small group instruction the way it was being provided. So you see the ripple effect. I commend our educators in our schools for really doubling down on the supports that they're giving students with after-school programming, summer programming, additional teachers, which part of it was paid for with the American Rescue Plan. But our students still need more. We're in a youth mental health crisis. So, not only with the pandemic, but with the increase of social media and the reliance of social media during the pandemic, we're trying to backtrack and give students that opportunity to socialize and really interact with one another. So both from an academic perspective and from a social emotional perspective, there's still ways to go. But I'm an optimist. I do see progress. In Connecticut, for example, the chronic absenteeism rate is being reduced. And we actually brought folks from Connecticut to the White House to share some of the things that they're doing because they're doing good things. And academically, there are parts of our country that are really accelerating. We're trying to lift those up because it is possible to catch our students up. And as a matter of fact, going to 2019 is not the goal. We have to do better. For me, we talk about raising the bar a lot. Reaching pre-pandemic levels is a low bar. We got to go higher.
Now, certainly you know the power of a great education. Talk to us about affordability, though, in terms of even colleges.
It's out of control, right? So, and again, now I have kids in college, so I know the perspective that I have is not only that as secretary, but also as a father.
Right.
I remember being an assistant superintendent in this district, having a student who a really bright kid. He was in my elementary school when I was a principal, and he would tell me, one of the brightest kids I had in the school, he told me when I was assistant superintendent that he's not going to college. And his father was right next to him. He goes, "No, I can't go to college, it's too expensive." He was like 11, 12 years old, telling me that he ruled out college because of the cost. That stayed with me because that kid had so much potential. We're failing as a country if kids by 11 years old say they can't go to college because of the cost. And when the president hired me, he said, "I need your help to fix that. We have a broken system." So we got to work. Now, a lot of people focus on debt relief, and I'm proud of the debt relief. I'm proud of that because we had veterans, firefighters, police officers with a lifetime of debt, because they wanted to better themselves. That's ridiculous. So we did some debt relief. We also increased accountability on colleges. We're pushing the gainful employment rules, meaning you have to tell parents what the return on investment is for your school. So when parents are making decisions, they're going to say, well, this school, they have nice flyers, they have great commercials, but when my kid graduates, he's going to be in debt this much, and they're only going to be making this much. I'm going to look elsewhere. We need transparency in what the numbers mean and what the value is of each school and each program, so parents can make informed decisions. We've increased Pell Grants by $900. You know, and there's more federal dollars available for students than ever before under the Biden-Harris administration. And then the last thing that, you know, it'd be easy to kick the can down the road with FAFSA, right? I welcome a challenge. We took over when schools were closed. We reopened them within 9 months. FAFSA hadn't been touched in 40 years. I could have kicked the can down the road saying we don't have money to do it. We fixed it. It gave me gray hairs, but we fixed it. Last year, 500,000 more students had access to federal dollars than the previous year. That's success in my book. Was it delayed? Yes. Was it challenging a little bit? Absolutely. No other administration touched it. No Democrat administration, no Republican administration. We fixed it. Today, more students have access to college than previous years. And that's just the beginning. The expectation now is that every year, more students have access. As a matter of fact, fixing FAFSA for me was the starting point. I expect FAFSA completion rates to match graduation rates moving forward. You know what I mean? So we need to do better as a country, making sure students have access to higher education. We did our part by fixing a broken system, a system that hadn't been touched in 40 years. Now the whole country should be making sure that our students have access to not only FAFSA, but access to higher education. Another thing we did to improve access, we're evolving our high schools to make sure that students have access to trades, to different credential programs, so they don't need a 4-year program, right? So if we improve access to high-skill, high-paying careers, making $70,000, $80,000 a year without the need for 4-year colleges, that's going to provide competition to colleges, and they're going to make sure that the return on investment is better. Mm-hmm. We've invested so much in that. I'm proud of that work as well. I was a first-gen kid. I'm a first-generation college student, and for me, higher education opened the doors for me. I went from, a first-gen kid who was a little bit nervous going on campus with imposter syndrome to advising the President of the United States on education for 65 million students. That's because of public education, because of higher education. I want everyone to have access to that, and they shouldn't have to take out loans for the rest of their life to do that. So I'm proud of what we've done, and I hope that it continues so that more students have access to chase their dreams.
Now here in Connecticut, Governor Lamont has talked about taking cell phones out of schools. Certainly seems like a good idea. Give me your thoughts on that and what else could be done.
Sure. Well, look, and I talked to Governor Lamont about that, and last week or maybe a couple weeks ago, we put out some guidance for governors, for state leaders, for superintendents across the country. The guidance is really, look, cell phones are not going away.
Right.
Technology is not going away. Social media is not going away. It's our responsibility as educators and as parents to make sure that our students know the risks, because there are risks with social media and with technology or over-reliance on it. There are risks, but we also have to know how to utilize it in order to enhance learning and to give students an opportunity to continue to succeed. Now, as a former school principal, as a former district leader, I can tell you it becomes a distraction in many ways. So there should be parameters, there should be rules that everyone follows. As a former teacher, listen, the last thing I need is a student be distracted by a phone while I'm trying to teach them something. So I applaud Governor for really taking a stand on this, and I applaud educators and parents for coming together and saying, how do we do this sensibly?
Right.
Because one size doesn't fit all. The guidance that we provided at the Federal Department of Education provides considerations that districts should think about, how to engage parents, because for me it's really important to engage parents and students in this process in order for it to stick.
I mean, look, the importance of a great education is vital today.
Right.
I mean, talk about that, and do you feel that more people are getting that?
Well, what I'm proud to see is recent reports show that there's been an increase in graduation rates in college. I still think our system is a system of have and have-nots. I really do. I think we need to evolve a little bit more boldly in our K-12 systems to ensure that students have options when they graduate. And I really do believe that it's going to require some innovation, some coordination between our K-12 system and our higher education system. But I think it's possible. Look, we, in a snap of fingers, went from fully in-person learning to online learning 4 years ago. If we could do that, and during a pandemic without vaccines at the time, without testing at the time, if we could do that, there's nothing we cannot do if we put our heads together. I think the key thing is making sure that we work together to solve problems together. And I do believe we can provide students with better opportunities for college and career. We can get our students excited about learning again. We can evolve our assessment system in this country that, in my opinion, is pretty antiquated and doesn't serve students well and is out of touch with how students learn. We can improve pedagogy to get students to do experiential-based learning. We can promote multilingualism as a core requirement of our schools, because we know students that know more than one language are more intelligent. They have more economic earning power. They're adding to the economic development of states. I'm excited about the future in education. I really am. And I know that when we put our heads together and we work together, different perspectives, red and blue, it doesn't matter, we can keep our kids at the center and we can continue to improve education. So that's where my optimism comes from, because I know what we've been able to do together is just maybe a teaser for what we can do in the future if we work together.
Mm-hmm. Now, with the new administration coming in, of course, your time in Washington will be coming to an end. What is next for you?
You know, if you would have asked me 5 years ago what's next for me, I would have given you an answer that included none of what happened. So I'm humble enough to know that it's not my plan, it's God's plan. You know, God's been good to me, and I feel like the right opportunity is going to present itself, and something that I'm passionate about. I always say my job will change, but my work won't. I want to serve children, I want to serve our country, I want to serve communities that have need. I want to work with educators and with community members and leaders, whether it's state, local, or national, or international, to make sure that we're continuing to move students forward. For me, that's been the inspiration. You know, I visited 49 states. I'm visiting my 50th soon in the new year. And, you know, I talked to governors, I've gone to different countries, talked to presidents. For me, I feel happiest, I feel most alive when I'm in those classrooms, seeing the students succeed. So wherever the path takes me, I know that serving children and helping children reach their God-given potential is something that is core to me, and is something that I hope to continue doing in the future.
I'm sure Connecticut would love to have you back in some capacity, that's for sure. Now, in a recent interview this week you did with your hometown paper, the American Record Journal, you did express how the travel is tough. I get it.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of traveling. It's good, though. I mean, you won't hear a complaint out of me. But I've been blessed. I've been blessed to go to Zambia to talk to the president over there about democracy. I've gone to France to visit classrooms and see how they educate students there. You know, Italy for a summit over there around career pathways. So I've been able to travel internationally, but I've also visited, as I said before, 49 states to see. For me, it's really important to listen on the ground to what the successes are, but also what the challenges are, so that I could make sure that those folks recognize that I see them too. I remember visiting rural Kentucky, where their challenges were, how do we give our students opportunities for pathways without, you know, sending the message that they have to leave Kentucky to be successful? So we were trying to problem solve there. You know, Texas, some of the work that they're doing over there around multilingualism and dual language programs, which are some of the best in the country. California, working with the film industry to make sure that students in our schools have access to some of these careers in the film industry. So it's been a wonderful experience. A lot of travel, a lot of miles, a lot of time on an airplane, but no regrets.
Miguel, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, good talking to you.
Great to see you. Yeah.